Welcome to the podcast where we'll be exploring the profound connection between music and peace. I'm your host, Nathan Johnston, and in each episode we'll be diving into interviews with musicians, artists, activists and scholars who believe in the transformative power of music and how music can unite people, foster understanding and amplify the voices of those advocating for a world without war. So I'm here with Ella Clayton. Ella is a songwriter and artist from London, whose stellar debut album, Murmurations, established her as one to watch and saw her feature on George Ezra's stage at Latitude Festival, as well as playing a number of sold-out shows across the UK. She's been compared to artists such as Laura Marling and Joni Mitchell, but Ella is truly her own artist, and her lyrics and melodies speak for themselves. How are you, Ella? Good to have you here.
Hi, Nathan. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. Beautiful sunny day in Dublin.
Yeah.
The reason I wanted to get you on here today is because not only do I think you are a very inspiring artist and you're an amazing songwriter, but I think you have sort of built this little community around you. You're always playing shows all over the place. And what we're trying to do here is bring artists together and sort of build a community around people who are trying to do music and art for the right reasons. And I think you are one of those people. So, yeah, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. You made a trip to Ireland.
I did.
Which I know because we met. And we spent a few days together and even performed together.
Yeah, we did.
What was your reason for traveling to Ireland? Because, you know, writing songs and traveling is sort of part and parcel, or had been for many years. I'm a huge Dylan fan. There's a Bob Dylan poster on my wall there, who traveled across America and through the UK, looking for inspiration for his songs. Why did you do this? And was there anything that inspired you in particular while you were there?
Oh, so much. I had just the most extraordinary time. Yeah, I think there's a kind of real pull for songwriters and writers in general to step out of ordinary life and sort of, you know, like so many other musicians, I have a part-time job and can just get swept up in London pace and kind of, I think there's this pull to sort of step out of all of that. For me, particularly, like, immerse myself in new surroundings, in nature, be by the sea. I'm constantly I'm looking for ways out and seeing how I can kind of take myself away and spend some time alone, and also like just, you know, allow myself to meet completely new people and be around different things. So I've done these kinds of trips before, but I've wanted to go to Ireland for the longest time. I've consumed a lot of like literature and music from Ireland. I feel like
from the Emerald Isle.
From the Emerald Isle, yeah. Certainly punches above its weight so much.
Is there anything in particular from Ireland that's sort of stood out and inspired you?
Well, this time I didn't actually have a solid plan at all about where I was going, and I started in Galway Bay and then decided to go up to Donegal, which is where you met me, and then we drove back down to
Mullingar.
Mullingar, that's it, yeah. But no, I went to this like small village, and I was sat in a pub and I was like filming the sunset, and this guy came out and was like, "Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it?" And then he asked me if I was one of the songwriters, and I was like, "What do you mean? I am a songwriter, but I'm not like with anyone." And it turns out there was this like songwriters retreat in the same village. They were a few doors down from where I was staying, and they were all from Portland, Oregon, in America. And they'd arrived that day. It was my last day, and we all just spent this absolutely beautiful evening sharing songs together in that local bar. And it's just like, how have I ended up here? At the same time as all of these songwriters from, you know, and we exchanged details, and they came to the gig that you played in Dublin that I opened. So I
Yeah.
supported in Dublin, and a couple of them were there, and it
So
was just
drinking pints of Guinness with a load of Americans from Portland up in
yeah.
Donegal,
Up and Donegal, swapping songs though as well. Like that
swapping
was
songs.
yeah.
Would you recommend this to other musicians, other artists to do something like that, just to leave and travel on your own and just figure it out as you go along?
100%. I mean,
Mm,
if I didn't have to come back and make some money, I would do
absolutely.
that all the time. I just think it's such a, I don't know. That's when I feel the most inspired, is when every day it's like, oh, what's new? What can I do today? Like, how can I make? It's freedom over time. It feels so empowering to,
Sure.
be able to like decide how you're going to use your time solely based on intuition. And
Yeah, I think if we, for me anyway, if I could do that all of the time, I would be writing so many more songs because, um, at the end of the day, we got to pay our rent, and I think the climate for musicians and artists nowadays is so much more difficult. And I love the '60s and what happened in that era, not
mm,
only for the music that was being made, but because of the hippie movement
yeah,
and all of the communities that were built around music at that time. And I think we sort of lost that a little bit throughout the years. I think nowadays there's a huge focus on making money from music. I call it the content generation, where people almost refer to music as content. You need to make all of these TikTok videos in order to promote a song, and there's artists that choose not to do this. And I think there is sort of a community now of people who are like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go out and I'm going to play gigs the old school way. But
yeah,
it's really difficult. It's really hard, and it's hard to make money. And like you said, you have to have a part-time job. And I think it puts off a lot of people who would be artists and maybe would have been back in the '60s, say, or the '70s, when it was a little easier to get by, when a cucumber didn't cost
yeah.
150 or whatever it may be.
I think there is a slight danger of over romanticizing the past in that way, because I definitely do it, and I think I look at sort of my parents' generation, even like not that long ago, and me and my brother talk about it a lot, with our parents, where it's just like, you guys had it so easy, blah blah blah. Like, you could get on the social housing and like
Hmm.
pay barely anything. But I think it's nuanced, as is everything, and there are like advancements now in women's rights and
Of course.
different things, like for marginalized people, that make living in 2024 a lot better than back in the 60s. But I do agree that, like, yeah, in lots of ways you look back and you're like, oh god, things things were a lot easier then.
No,
uh,
I think you're right. I don't think it was necessarily easier in that way. What I find inspiring really is this movement that didn't really start in the '60s. It actually came from well before this. There's the I think it was the Lebenswald movement in Germany. It was all about freedom and expression and building communities. And actually, it always started around folk music. And
mm,
that's what I think is so powerful, that music can really bring people together in this way, that we can
yeah.
identify with one song. And of course, with the hippie movement, we associated with the drugs and the psychedelics, and that was a big part of it too. And that definitely influenced the music. But this sparked a whole movement, and this anti-war movement, which helped end the Vietnam War. And I
Yeah,
think that's something that we can't take for granted. So as far
obviously.
as what you've said, absolutely, there were many different social issues that weren't being tackled back then, but there were things that were happening then that were inspiring. And if we look around what's happening in the world today, um, I think it is music really that brings us together.
Yeah, because it's just that feeling of like recognizing yourself in another song. Like, that is the most,
Hmm.
it's like the biggest healer to feeling lonely and
Ab-
like
ab-
isolated. Like,
Absolutely.
there's nothing better, like when you hear a song and you're like, oh my god, like you recognize yourself within it, or like you feel like someone understands what you're
Hmm.
going through, or even better, like when they say something that you don't quite have the courage to say yet, like about how you're feeling or about the state of the world, about, you know, something really familiar to you. Like, I think that's that's so powerful. I do think, just going back to like you saying about music these days being like the emphasis being on content,
Mhm.
you lose some of that potency when it's about when music's being made to sell.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. It's one of those things, isn't it? It's like the more specific, like if you think about an Amy Winehouse song, it's like resonates with however many hundreds of thousands of people, and will continue to. Like I think that music
Mhm.
will stand the test of time, absolutely. And she's talking about the most specific details, but
Mm.
somehow listening to it from a completely different generation, age, town, whatever, you're like, wow, I understand. I know what she means.
Yeah.
Um, because she was trying to like talk about something within herself, and then other people can interpret it. Whereas like if you're making music with the intention of reaching as many people as possible, you're sort of blowing off those like harsher edges,
Yeah.
making it more smooth and accessible.
It's intention. It's about
Yeah.
honesty and,
Yeah.
you know, being
And
authentic and really
that
speaking from
word
the
is
heart.
overused so much, but it's the most important thing, isn't it? Is it?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
think something I read, I was doing a little bit of background research on you, although, you know, we've had many conversations before, but I wanted to just see, you know, if there was anything specifically you'd said in past interviews. What stood out to me was, I think the question was, why do you make music? Or like, why are you a musician? And your answer was that you want your songs to move people in the way that you've been moved by music throughout your life.
Mm.
And I love that answer because there's nothing, you know, selfish there at all. And we had that conversation earlier on where you said, you know, um, am I a selfish musician if I don't go out and write protest songs and,
Well,
you know,
I just
all of this
realized
stuff?
that a lot of my music is main like, yeah, that's sort of like quite introspective,
Yeah.
dealing with my own thoughts and feelings and trying to work them out. And it's like, hang on, like you wanted to do this interview about, you know, activism and protest songs. It's like, oh God.
No,
Sorry.
but it's what's going on internally actually that's so important because it's how people identify with your music. It can really make such a difference in somebody. And I like that you said that because it's, you know, actually when a piece of music moves you, whether it's just, you know, makes you think about your own life or really sometimes moves you to tears or you get the goosebumps and the hair stands up on the back of your neck, whatever it may be, or it can move you to anger, it can move you to resistance. It can do so many different things to us. And I think that's the right reason. That's the real reason to create music is to say what you want to say inside yourself to get it out, and hopefully that will have an impact on somebody else as well and help them on their journey.
Yeah.
And you know, I think that's what you're doing. And I suppose I'm really interested to hear, like, is there any other artists that are inspiring you, whether it's at the moment or just in the past? If you have anyone that has stood out, that's really, you know, that quote that I've, but probably badly quoted you on.
Yeah, I mean, Adrian Lenker is someone I'm just completely obsessed with, and
Mhm.
the obsession doesn't seem to be dying down.
Tell me about Adrian Lenker because you saw Adrian Lenker in Ireland, right?
Instead, yeah, I saw him
Yeah.
in Galway Bay. It was just one of the most like magical gigs I've seen in a really long time, and part of that was because she had no set list, and
Okay.
one of my like rules as I've got more experience gigging over the last couple of years is like have a set list and know what you're going to do, and then you can veer away from it if you feel the time's right. But just the idea of going out there and being like, what shall I play is kind of crazy to me.
Yeah.
And she did it with such like grace and softness. She was just sat down on a chair, and she wasn't she's wearing like a vest and a jacket and a hat. And it was just like all about the songs, all about the intimacy of the moment. And that can never be repeated, that experience. Like we were all there, we all shared something.
Yes.
And
those are the most amazing gigs, right? Those are the most amazing concerts when it's in the moment, that it's not something that you can watch again online. Actually, you have to really experience it with other people.
Yeah, totally. And she released some like phone recordings, like voice memo recordings of some new songs on Bandcamp, and all the money went to like a charity for Palestinian children. I think it was the
wow.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's still going, but it's definitely worth looking into. Like they're an incredibly beautiful collection of songs, and they will, I'm sure, feature on a record later on. But it was just like, I think she felt really compelled to do something, because this came out. I just basically thought this was such a. We're talking about authenticity, and we're talking about how so much of the music industry is like swept up in content production, making money, blah blah blah. This is like the antithesis of that. I doubt her label would have been that happy with her just being. Actually, I've just released an album, spent all of this time and money doing an album campaign. Here's 5 songs, 5 more songs. Just here they are, and like.
I mean, was it Mac DeMarco that like last year released an album with it was like something like 300 demos or something crazy? Whatever the limit is on the amount of songs that you can release at one time on Spotify or whatever streaming service it is. He released that amount or just like one less than that amount, and they're all like 45 seconds long, mostly instrumentals and random things. Again, I doubt the label was too happy with that decision, but
just ideas.
It's just ideas, and I love that, because I think people can really connect with that. The
collection of songs from Adrian Lenker, just to finish them, that is called "I Won't Let Go of Your Hand," which I think
I won't let go of your hand.
Yeah, I won't let go of your hand. And it's 3 songs. Oh no, 5 songs. Yeah.
Okay, I will go check it out.
Go check it out. Go check it out.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing is, like, there's so much emphasis on money in society, actually, especially in the Western world, that of course it's going to filter into music, and it's nothing new. It's not like this cookie cutter pop stuff is just been invented recently. It's been going on since the famed 60s, if we want to call it that. I don't know. The Beatles originally sang "Love, Love Me Do." You know that I love you. Didn't say an awful lot, but it's a good song. I mean, how do you feel about the current climate for artists and musicians in 2024, and this idea of community and places where artists and musicians can come together and hang out and discuss ideas? And I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. It is. There are places that have it, and if there are, is there anything that you know or can suggest? Because it's that idea of success has 1,000 fathers, failure is an orphan. It's many hands, and I think, I don't know who said that, Kennedy. I think it really applies to us as artists and musicians. Like, you don't go into record an album on your own. It's quite a scary thing. And Adrian Lenker's record, I'm sure if they're just voice notes, she probably just did it all by herself. And I doubt that would have been very successful, except for the fact that she did it for a reason. She had a message, and she was trying to raise some money for a charity. But really, it's about community and working with other people. So I don't know. How do you feel about that? How that is right now, and how that's, especially in London, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the sort of paradoxes of the internet is that we're all hyper connected, but then also I think it's so easy to feel alone in those spaces, and the kind of uglier side of comparison. And I have to really watch my time on like the amount of time I spend on social media. I have to really limit it, because I notice just really bad feelings creeping in when I spend too much time on it that don't reflect reality. And in London, like over the years, like there's just such a beautiful network of musicians supporting each other, and I feel really lucky with the people I've met. And just the different ways we support each other, whether it's like passing on contacts or advice, or sharing tips on funding applications and things like this. Like, I would say particularly women that I just feel like there's such a strong
I see that
network of women.
I see that with women,
which is so beautiful, and I'm so grateful for. But it extends to guys too. Like like the amount of love I have for my band is like, it's sickening.
Is there any women in that band?
No, it's guys and girls, like
It's a mix.
and in betweens, yeah. But there are a lot of like sorry, I've got like things in my brain that I want to make sure I say. So there are all sorts of like community sort of groups. There's this one called Ladies Music Pub, and they meet. That is for women and like non-binary people, but they meet pretty regularly. I've never actually been fast enough to grab a spot because it sells out so quickly. I don't think you have to pay, but you reserve a seat. But some friends have been, and I really want to go. And it's just like, it's exactly that. It's sharing tips, advice, making connections, talking about different issues as well. It's a space to sort of talk about your experiences in the music industry. But then on a smaller, more local level, like I love songwriting circles where you share songs that you've been working on. And I've been to a few, and I'm also like, I sort of host my own ones with just bring together different songwriters, on the scene, and lots of them know each other. Some of them don't. And you share works in progress or recently finished songs, and people can give their feedback, but also just enjoy the music. And there's a bit of food.
Oh yeah,
a little bit of food.
There's the draw.
Yeah.
But that's so nice, right? Because so you just go, you play a song or whatever, and it goes around in a circle, and everyone gets an opportunity to play their song.
Yeah.
And do you give feedback after the song, or is it just kind of like a slight applause and move on?
I think feedback, like you do give feedback, but it depends on who's played and like what stage.
Because like, what if the song is like, it's really bad?
Well, you'd want only songwriters that you really love to come.
Okay.
It's so hopefully there aren't any really bad ones. But you'd say it nicely. Like, I'd be really surprised if someone was like, "That's awful."
Yeah,
it's not a very like generous thing. But obviously, people have different tastes and stuff like that.
True. But look, so something I love. Just moving on, I really liked that you did this thing. You went around to bookshops around London and left your lyrics in books for people to find. I thought that was super sweet. I really loved the idea. And yeah, why did you do that, or feel the need to do that?
So basically I printed off my lyrics, and I wrote a little note on each of the sheets just saying like, "Hello, you found lyrics to my song Murmurations. It's out. I've been hiding these books around the place. Go and stream it." And it started off in London, and then I realised that train stations and airports were the best place for people just like browsing through books.
Okay.
I got the most sort of responses from train stations and things. And then it's got to the point now, like whenever I'm going anywhere, I'll like have a few of these lyric sheets, and but I just love the whole process because it feels a little bit subversive. Like when you're, I never ask permission in bookshops, so there's an element of being sneaky and hiding things in. But also, it's like a totally innocent. If I were to get caught by someone in the bookshop, they'd be like, "What are you doing?" I'd be like, "Oh, these are my lyrics." I don't know. It's quite a sort of.
Have you been caught?
No,
not yet.
Not cool.
No, not once.
No.
Okay, so they just kind of saw you sneaking things into books. If they did see it, they just turned a blind eye.
But it's all in the confidence. If you walk in, darting, you know, 30 glances over your shoulder, you're going to attract like
Yeah, it's
suspicion. If you
like
just walk in and you're like, oh, look at this book, this is cool, flip a few pages, put my thing in, put it back down, walk around.
yeah,
Then also it's, I think like I've always, I don't know, when I it happened to me once when I bought a jacket from a charity shop and there was like a little note in the pocket, and it was accidentally left there, but it
ah,
was really cool. It was like, oh, like I found a little secret thing. So I think
yeah,
it's a really nice experience when you're either looking through a book or you've bought it and you're looking through it later, and there's this sort of note and it feels like it's for you.
mm.
And from the responses I've got from people, like, you know, it can be quite a special thing.
Was there anything in particular that somebody said that stood out?
I mean, I love all the messages I get because it's always so exciting. But this girl found one of my books one of my lyric sheets in a Hemingway book. It was like
Mm. The Old Man in the Sea.
Old Man in the Sea,
Mm.
and she just sent me this like long, long message about how her and her boyfriend are buying books to fill their library eventually, and they've got this like basically there's just this beautiful backstory, and
Mm.
she's like, and now this book is so much more meaningful because we found this, and we love your album, and we're coming to your gig, and then they
No
came to
way.
the
And
gig,
they came to the
and
show.
yeah, no, quite a few people like that have found these little lyric things come to the show. But
That's
yeah,
incredible. I
I
love
love
that so
it.
much.
I love it for so many reasons, and it feels like it's like I always call it like a DIY marketing thing, and it's just like there are so many ways of promoting your music online, and a lot of them cost money, like
Hmm.
PR and things like that. And it's just like a really fun, silly, slightly rebellious. That it's not
Yeah, but
groundbreaking.
it's also like say it's the same kind of idea of this like building a community and like
Yeah.
bringing people together in like an organic way.
Mm.
I really love that, and it's like yeah, it is slightly rebellious, and you're going in and sticking your lyrics in a book. How do you choose the books? What do you choose? Like,
A
is
lot
there
of the time, it's books that I've read that I like.
okay? So
Um,
you read the Old Man and the Sea.
Yeah, yeah. I read Hemingway in my early 20s. Uh, and then sometimes it's just books that like are funny to me or like stand like
Is there
I don't
anything you've read recently that you would recommend to anybody listening to this
know.
that's
Uh,
inspired you?
well, when I was in Ireland, I read this book by Daphne du Maurier, which is Jamaica Inn. It's like a sort of thriller.
Hmm.
Well, thriller is probably the wrong word, but Daphne du Maurier wrote Rebecca,
Oh yeah.
really famous book, and
Hmm.
it's like this sort of like it's all set in Cornwall and the dark moors, and she's a brilliant writer for suspense. Like you don't know what's sort of coming around the corner, and everything's a bit dark and eerie. But as soon as I got back, I started an Irish book. Have you heard of The Bee Sting?
No.
Really recommend it. It's a plot.
Who wrote the Bee Sting?
Patrick, I want to say.
Paddy Paddy
Over
McGuinness.
there. Yeah, Paddy McGuinness. No, it's like fairly recent. I think it was published this year or last year.
Okay.
And my mum recommended it to me. And like, it's one of those books where like it's family members and they all have their own chapters and then they sort of interweave.
Oh, I love
And it's
that.
like far more kind of character driven than plot driven, although there are some like really, it's all family secrets, betrayal.
Okay.
You
Reminds
know.
me of that show. Have you seen that show Bloodline?
No, but I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit like that sort of vibe. Actually, the music is amazing in that show. I love
Really?
the theme song as well. How important is it like for you reading with I think from my understanding lyrics are pretty important for you in
Yeah.
music. I know you're a fan of Joni Mitchell.
Yeah.
We spoke about that before. Um, do books inspire you heavily when with your lyrics?
Yeah, massively. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, and poetry.
Hmm.
I think from like as long as I can remember, I've had the urge to like put pen to paper. And it was recently my mum's like cleared out my childhood bedroom a little while ago, like, but all the stuff is in this cupboard now, and I need to sort through it. I kind of like opened the cupboard the other day, and just from the first little glimpse, there are just notebook upon notebook, and I used to write poems and like make little articles, the Clayton Chronicles. I used to
the Clayton Chronicles.
The Clayton Chronicles is my newspaper that I published, like, and I think there's just always been this like really strong draw to like sounds so lame. I've always been drawn to words, but you know, just like the written word, and as a means of understanding myself in the world. I think it's just always played a really important part in my life, in my artistic development. And so part of that, I just think about like inhaling and exhaling, you know, and the books I read are definitely part of that like inhaling process, whether it's like, oh, that's a really brilliant phrase you might write down, or it's like I think through reading and through music, but in different ways, like it develops your empathy for, you know, and it's a way like of, if you're reading a novel that's, you know, from the perspective of like a teenage boy or a man, and that, do you know what I mean? Like it's a way of it's a way of inhabiting that person's mind and feelings and perspective, basically. And in turn, I think that like builds your empathy with the world and understanding of different kinds of people.
Absolutely.
Which I think is an amazing thing.
Yeah. Do you have any stories of like a situation where you think music, whether it be your music or just in general, music has helped to bring people together in some way or other? Because, you know, obviously from your story about the books and leaving your lyrics in the books, this couple, they'd met and they were, you know, they were decorating their house. So what be it, putting books in their bookshelves. Do you have any stories of a situation where you've noticed that music has really helped somebody?
I worked a lot with children with disabilities, like of varying kinds, but mainly with this charity at WAC in North London, WAC Arts. And you just see it time and time again. Like there's so much overwhelming evidence. You know, you're working with children that are nonverbal, and whether it's listening to music, making music, we do a lot of like drumming workshops together. But like whether it's like as a kind of calming thing, you see someone completely relax and feel, you know, all of the agitation slipping away, like in the physicality. Or whether it's like someone that, like, yeah, as I say, like is like maybe non-verbal and doesn't kind of get involved in things very often with other people, and then all of a sudden you give them a drum and there's this sort of like rhythm that's building with everyone collectively, and someone can just totally let go and like and express themselves and be a part of a group activity in a way that like usually they just won't. And I used to, so I did this stuff with the charity, and then one of the young people, their dad invited me to come and like essentially do like a music therapy thing, even though I haven't like got any music therapy qualifications. The idea was just to come around and serenade him basically, and like he loves music. And at first I went around with some of the songs that we'd like sang together at WAC, and some other sort of more like lullaby nursery type songs. And he'd basically just like sit there and like massage his head and rock, and do these kind of sensory things that, just like increased the sort of relaxation feeling and the pleasure feeling. And his dad was always amazed because he had like a really short attention span and didn't want to do anything for more than a couple of minutes. And we'd sit there for about 45 minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And he'd just rock. And so, and also at first I thought he was like covering his ears, but sort of change like if you press different parts of your ear, like the sound changes. So doing that, and yeah, I went with all of these songs that I thought he might like, and then basically it was just like he liked the sound of the guitar and the vibrations from that, and he liked the sound of singing voices. So I ended up just kind of singing my own songs as well, and it was as much for his dad as it was for him. And like, yeah, they kept inviting me back, and it was a really special thing to be a part of, because we basically just like sat in this room and shared and it was like a way of communicating, like, you know, with this young person. And
yeah,
so,
well, that's it. It's like I think that's always, maybe it's a bit cliche, but music is like a common language that we all can understand,
but it really truly is. Yeah. And you see those incredible videos of like people with Alzheimer's who have kind of lost connection to themselves, and their existence is quite scary and quite lonely and isolated. And you see how it changes when they listen to a song from their hearts, and just the joy return to their face and the sense of self.
Yeah, just
it's amazing.
It is amazing. Tell me, you have a song that you're going to play for us.
Yeah. Well, I've got this song called October Trip. I wrote it when my good friend was going through just like a really dark time mental health wise, and was struggling a lot. And as I was writing the song, I didn't realize that it was about her and about that until it was done. Has that ever happened to you? And
that always happens to me.
You're writing and you're sort of like, oh, okay, yeah, you kind of catch on to something, and then sort of just letting it flow. And then when I realized the song was finished, I was like, oh, bloody hell, it's that bad.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We have this subconscious, like it's when you get into a flow state, I suppose, and you just start letting go of things that are in the back of your mind, and you don't even realize that you come to the end of the song or whatever you're writing, and you're just like, oh my God, I've just let all of that out. I didn't know that was there. And that's actually amazing, because I think that's the stuff that we forget to talk about sometimes. That's why music and writing music, for most songwriters anyway, I think is a form of therapy, because we can get these emotions and feelings out there. But also we bring back stories that we forgot we had. And yeah, I'm interested. It's called October
Trip.
October Trip. Okay. Take it away.
All right.
When I come to my senses, the patterns appear, and how the mighty have fallen in the daylight so clear. In the marshes, in the meadow, find a small souvenir, for to keep you warm all winter long. The cold is so severe. Now I see you with a seashell talking to its twisted ear, and I asked you, oh, you're keeping what you don't want me to hear. And the churning of the ocean began to draw us near. There's a part of me you'll never see, for I have cause to fear. Oh, can I linger on the threshold and resist her muffled tears, while the amber light is dripping from my mother's chandelier? And I would rather be anyone away from here. If I tell you that I love you? Are you gonna disappear? If I tell you that I love you, baby, please don't disappear. Oh, if I tell you that I love you, are you gonna disappear?
Woo! I don't have any sort of. Yeah. Oh, Ella, thank you so much for joining me today and for your beautiful music.
Oh, thanks for having me.
And yeah, wishing you the best. And
Lovely
hopefully
to
see you
chat.
soon. Yeah, lovely to chat. Yeah. Lots of love. Thanks so much for listening. If you are interested in who we are, what we're getting up to, or want to get involved in any of our projects, you can find out lots more information on our website, whataboutusmusic.com. Until next time, peace and love.